Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Virginia Giuffre. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crimes, then offer my analysis. Virginia Giuffre was born on August 9, 1983 in Sacramento, California. At that time her last name was Roberts. When she was 4 years old, Virginia's family moved to Palm Beach County, Florida. She ended up running away from home, later claiming that a family friend mistreated her in terrible ways. Virginia lived in various foster homes and on the streets. Before moving to the timeline of the crimes, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Delete Me. Over the past few years, I have covered a lot of stalking cases which involve a perpetrator easily finding personal information online. When people try to get this information removed, they find it's extremely time-consuming. Fortunately, there's a solution. Delete Me is a subscription service that can eliminate this type of personal information that is for sale online. They have the straightforward mission of removing customers' information from search results and upholding your right to manage and remove your personal information. The privacy experts at Delete Me work continually to remove information from hundreds of data brokers. This gets rid of your personal data like address, occupation, marital status, age, names of relatives, and so on. How does it work? Submit your information to Delete Me, and their experts remove it. After that, they check every 3 months to make sure any new data get removed as well. If you want to get your personal information removed from search results on the web, go to joindeleteme.com/drgrande. Delete Me is offering 20% off their privacy plans to all my viewers with code Dr. Grande. Again, that's joindeleteme.com/drgrande, promo code Dr. Grande. Now moving to the timeline of the crimes. When she was 14 years old, Virginia reunited with her father and lived with him. He was able to get her a job at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago Club, where he worked as a maintenance man. In the year 2000, while working there, Virginia met a British socialite named Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine was an associate of a financier named Jeffrey Epstein and hired Virginia to give him massages. Over time, Jeffrey and Ghislaine established an emotional connection with Virginia to manipulate her into providing services of a sexual nature. Virginia traveled with the pair to various residences. She not only provided services to Jeffrey, but other men at his request. Virginia would later say that she was passed around like a platter of fruit. According to Virginia, in March 2001, she was assigned to provide services to Prince Andrew and was even captured in a photograph with him and Ghislaine. This is something that Prince Andrew has repeatedly denied. As far as the photograph, Andrew has implied it might not be authentic. When Virginia was 19 years old, she traveled to Thailand to attend a massage school. She claimed that the purpose of the trip was to escort a girl who Jeffrey wanted back to the United States. During Virginia's time in the school, she met an Australian man named Robert Giuffre. He was a martial arts trainer. Virginia and Robert became romantically involved and married just 10 days after meeting. She ended her relationship with Jeffrey and Ghislaine and moved to Australia to live with Robert. At this point, Virginia had never spoken with law enforcement about what Jeffrey and Ghislaine did to her. She was moving on with her life and putting everything in the rearview mirror. In 2005, a 14-year-old girl and her parents reported Jeffrey Epstein to the police in Palm Beach, Florida, accusing him of committing terrible offenses against her. Within a few months, more victims came forward with accusations. The police searched Jeffrey Epstein's property in Palm Beach. In the trash, they found telephone numbers of girls written on notes. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and charged, but he managed to secure a very favorable plea agreement. In May 2009, Virginia filed a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein. He settled this lawsuit and many similar lawsuits from other alleged victims that same year. Virginia ended up with a settlement of $500,000. In early 2010, Virginia started sharing her story with the media. She became a prominent figure who advocated for other victims. In 2014, Virginia accused Prince Andrew of offending against her at least 3 times in 2001. In August 2021, she filed a lawsuit against him containing the same accusations. In February 2022, Virginia and Prince Andrew settled the case. the settlement did not contain a recognition of responsibility on the part of Andrew, although he did express regret for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew made a donation to a charity that Virginia started. Reportedly, this donation was approximately £12 million. Moving back to 2014, Virginia also accused a lawyer who represented Jeffrey Epstein named Alan Dershowitz. Alan is pretty well known. Among other things, he wrote a book titled Reversal of Fortune, which was made into a movie with the same name in 1990. Alan was played by the actor Ron Silver. Virginia stated that Alan had offended against her at least 6 times. Alan denied Virginia's claims. In 2019, Virginia sued Alan for defamation. In 2022, she dismissed the lawsuit and admitted that she may have been mistaken by accusing Alan. No money changed hands in this settlement. By this time, Jeffrey Epstein was dead. He had been arrested again in July 2019 and brought an end to his own life in jail in August 2019. His associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, ended up in prison in 2021, serving a 20-year sentence. During many of the lawsuits that Virginia was involved in, she lived in New South Wales, Australia. She moved back to the United States in 2013, but returned to Australia sometime around 2019. Virginia lived in Queensland with her husband Robert and their 3 children before moving to the town of Ocean Reef in Western Australia in 2020. This is just north of Perth. Virginia also had a residence in the small town of Grande, about an hour north of Perth. About 3 years later, Virginia and Robert separated. Virginia claimed that on January 9, 2025, Robert physically attacked her during a trip. Robert was not charged with any crime, and he secured a family violence restraining order against Virginia, claiming that she became violent with him. On February 2, 2025, Virginia allegedly violated the order by sending a text message to Robert. She denied this accusation, referring to it as a malicious claim. On March 30, 2025, Virginia posted on Instagram saying that she was involved in a horrible motor vehicle collision. She claimed that on March 24, her vehicle collided with a school bus, which was being driven at 70 miles per hour. Injuries sustained in this collision caused her kidneys to fail. Virginia insisted that she would be dead in 4 days. As it turns out, Virginia was lying about the collision. She had been a passenger in a Toyota Highlander driven by her 71-year-old caregiver. The driver for the school bus said that he was trying to pass the Toyota Highlander, which was moving slowly. The vehicle cut in front of him to make a right turn on a rural property. He was unable to avoid striking the taillight of the Highlander. No one was injured. The drivers exchanged information and went their separate ways. Virginia's caregiver also indicated the collision was minor. Later, a spokesperson for Virginia said that Virginia had been hospitalized due to complications from a pre-existing medical condition, so this had nothing to do with the minor collision. Virginia's post about her impending death was shared on Instagram by mistake. The intent was to post it on Facebook for family members. Based on this statement, it sounds like Virginia was only trying to lie to her family. On April 25, 2025, 41-year-old Virginia Giuffre was found dead in her home in Grande. The authorities said that her death was not considered suspicious, and she was the one responsible. Virginia's lawyer did not seem as confident, implying that there were questions about Virginia's death. The lawyer indicated that Virginia's death could have been caused by misadventure. Now moving to my analysis. Virginia Giuffre was the most outspoken of the Jeffrey Epstein accusers. Technically, she wasn't the one who brought him down, but her frequent media appearances made her the most prominent victim. The stories that she told fascinated the public for many years. She was portrayed by the media as an individual who bravely stood up against heinous criminals. Over the years, Virginia frequently filed lawsuits accusing quite a few people of offending against her. There is no question that Virginia was right about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but as far as her other claims, there has not been much in the way of corroborating evidence presented. In the last few years of her life, Virginia appeared to be in a tailspin. Her life was falling apart. She had a habit of repeatedly criticizing anyone who challenged her memory, accusing them of victim blaming, only to admit that she may have been mistaken when she accused Alan Dershowitz. If she was wrong about Alan, who else did she falsely accuse? In the weeks leading up to her death, Virginia had even more problems. She was accused of violating a restraining order, and she fabricated a story about being hit by a bus traveling at 70 miles per hour, claiming that her injuries left her with only 4 days to live. When Virginia attempted to backtrack, she did not make herself look any better. Essentially, she was saying that she meant to lie to her family and not to the public. Virginia made her living leveling accusations against people, yet she repeatedly proved that she was dishonest. Alan Dershowitz once referred to Virginia as a serial liar who falsely accused him and others in order to make millions of dollars. He may have been correct in his assessment of Virginia. This brings me to the next question. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Virginia Giuffre was victimized when she was younger. Her accusations against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were generally accurate. Virginia never wanted to be in the limelight, but when she started giving interviews related to the scandal, she was well received. After being a victim for so long, Virginia enjoyed the positive attention. She also realized the public was highly interested in the accusations that she was making, and her allegations could lead to a financial benefit. Virginia started filing lawsuits against many people, some of whom had not offended against her. In my opinion, she falsely accused Alan Dershowitz. It's also possible she falsely accused other people. Virginia's accusations against Prince Andrew attracted a tremendous amount of attention. Arguably, this was more important for Virginia's reputation than her accusations against Jeffrey Epstein. Again, by the time she accused Jeffrey, other people had already come forward detailing his terrible crimes. This was not the case with Prince Andrew. When Virginia accused Andrew, this was an allegation no one had heard before. It was novel, and Virginia was at the center of it. Now she was more popular than ever. As Virginia's story was scrutinized, certain components fell apart. For example, she had different stories as far as the timeline, and she admitted that she was wrong about some of the people she named. I don't know if Virginia's accusations against Prince Andrew are true or not. One thing is certain, however, Andrew had a lot more to lose than Virginia. This could explain why the lawsuit was settled. Regardless of whether she was telling the truth, Virginia's reputation started to decline. For example, even though Virginia should have been an important witness against Ghislaine Maxwell, she was never called to testify during Ghislaine's trial. Some people believe this was because investigators had serious concerns about Virginia's credibility. In the months leading up to her death, Virginia was having trouble in her marriage. She separated from her husband and lost custody of her children. When she was involved in a minor collision with a bus, she saw this as an opportunity. Virginia decided to lie in an effort to see her children. In her social media post, she talked about seeing them one last time before she died. Ultimately, all the stressors that Virginia was under, including those she caused, became too much for her. This brings me to the next question. What should Virginia's legacy be? This is a tricky case that has led to a lot of strong feelings on both sides. Some people view Virginia as a hero who stood up to the elite. She was willing to fight for victims everywhere, no matter what the cost. Ultimately, her efforts led to physical and mental health symptoms. She paid a heavy price. Virginia should be remembered as a champion who was willing to hold criminals accountable. She may have falsely accused people here and there, but this behavior should not be held against her because of the trauma she experienced. Other people see this case differently. They view Virginia as a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. But other than that, she may have been lying. When Virginia experienced fame due to her accusations, she became intoxicated by it and enjoyed being the center of attention. Virginia realized that the more people she accused, the more money she could make. The types of crimes she was alleging are rarely accompanied by a lot of corroborating evidence due to the nature of the offenses. So the fact that most of her accusations involved just her word was not viewed as out of the ordinary. She could accuse as many people as she wanted. It was like a license to print money. Essentially, Virginia's detractors argued that Virginia was not always lying, but she was willing to lie. She blamed her inconsistent stories on traumatic experiences and attacked people who were criticizing her. By being a legitimate victim, Virginia learned how to play an illegitimate one. When considering the arguments of her supporters and her detractors, it is easy to understand why Virginia remains such a polarizing figure. In my view, Virginia's legacy is one of both bravery and imperfection. She was a hero in many ways. Virginia stood up to very powerful people by telling her story. At the same time, Virginia made mistakes. She had a questionable relationship with the truth. Whether these lapses were rooted in trauma, opportunism, or something else, society will never know. What is for certain is that Virginia suffered tremendously throughout her life. I think the lesson learned in this case is that victims of terrible offenses should not be expected to maintain perfection. Becoming famous by being a victim does not automatically negate somebody's credibility, but it does cause complications. Sometimes these complications are difficult to navigate. Virginia always wanted both justice and peace. In the end, neither was fully achieved. Those are my thoughts in the case of Virginia Giuffre. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.